All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of On Cycle. As we move into the 2025 season, Robbie and I thought it'd be a really cool idea to kind of rehash something we did last year, which was talk to old DCI All-Age members who marched with us previously, who are now currently marching with DCI Corps as we move into the season. So,
yeah, people follow that sort of the trend, the growth corps trend or the feeder corps trend.
Yeah.
They come with us for a year or two, and they go on, leave us behind for bigger and better things, for the big show.
for the pros, if you will.
Yeah.
So today we have a really exciting duo that came in. They are brothers, and they're marching in two different corps this season. So I'd like to welcome you guys to Jason and Ethan Zheng. How are you guys?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So let's just do the easy thing first, which is kind of talk about both of your where you've been to where you're at now, right?
Yeah.
So
career summaries.
If you haven't figured it out by looking at the apparel, is that Jason is going to be at Bluecoats this year, and unfortunately, Ethan's not going to be at Cadets this year. Obviously,
it'd be wild if he was.
But he's going to
I'd be impressed.
But he's going to be down in Crown. But I'll let you guys kind of go through that. So let's start with the older brother. Right, I'm an older brother.
Yeah,
I get it.
Right.
So go ahead and rip down your little drum corps history for me.
All right, here we go. So, back in 2018, that's really when I actually first got introduced to drum corps. So initially, I thought, let's just find the closest corps to me. Let's just go to a camp and let's see what happens. So that corps ended up being C2.
Okay.
A week after that camp, they folded. So
I was about to say, I remember you marching C2. Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
So then after that, exploring other options, going between, maybe Reading, maybe Bushwhackers, and then, as you can tell by the wall, I ended up at Fusion Corps for the summer of 2019. After that, wonderful summer. I really learned a lot of growth that summer. Going into the next season, I was going to be back at Fusion for, my first year as a vet. Obviously, COVID happened that year, so I didn't end up marching 2020 or 21 for that matter. And then coming out of COVID, going into the 22 season, I had both myself wanting to get back into drum corps and then also him, a couple other people in tow that were also interested. So group consensus, we ended up going to check out the Reading Buccaneers. Loved it there. Ended up spending that season out in Reading. Again, another wonderful experience. And then final goal for me was always end up somewhere DCI world class, like you guys said, big show. So obviously, first step was Cadets for me. Since I was back in high school, people always told me, that's what excellence looks like.
Right.
Like perfection on a marching field, Cadets. Like there's so many things that I did back in both in high school, at Fusion, at Reading, that I didn't realize were just because the Cadets did it until I was there.
Right.
Remember the first
get
couple
a lot
of
of
years, first couple of years of high school marching band, we always closed parallel.
This is true.
I think a lot of high schools do.
Yeah,
My high school
a lot of high
did.
schools around here do. Yeah. And I didn't realize why that was until I went to Cadets, and they're like, yeah, we just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's like going to a southeastern PA school and you do the whole feet together, stomach in, eyes with pride
Exactly.
stuff. And you don't realize that all of that kind of comes from George Parks, right? And Drum Major Academy. You don't realize it has, that sort of shared origin.
Right.
Yeah. And then more than any other corps I think I've been at, I just fell in love with that kind of culture. But then, of course, the things that happened. Had to find a new home for 24. And, narrowing down my options for, I really loved it here. Let's see where else I can go to. First thing on that list, first corps next, Carolina Crown. Same kind of culture of
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna work so hard, but that's how you get the results that you want out of it. And I ended up loving it there too. And now I'm going back finally after this is 7 years since I started marching drum corps. I'm finally a vet.
Oh yeah,
I never thought of that. This is my first year as a vet.
It's my first year as a vet.
That's so funny.
Crazy. I
And-
never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I finally get to age out.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
that's a really neat trajectory from
took a lot longer to explain than I thought it would.
Yeah,
Too.
that's okay. That's
Well,
what we're here for.
when you do so many course switches, like for me, I do I showed up at Reading, I did my 1 year DCI, and then I've been here since.
Yeah.
And it's right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I spent a
There's
lot of
not that
time in
many.
one place as a younger man, and then through life and experience, I moved over here. Like we marched together in 19 at Fusion, and then back to Reading in 22 when I was there as well. So it does happen that time. Sometimes you just move around, and it's nice. And I felt like I was a re-vet in 23 at Reading because I kind of felt like a rookie in 22 also, even though I'd been there for a decade before that. But so that makes sense. So that's a long and storied career.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited to see you guys go back to Crown, see what Crown pulls out this year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun. So that's all you, and now little brother, right? Because you're the younger of the two, right?
My story is definitely not as long and
okay.
as
That's fine.
bouncing around as his was, but I mean, it started when my introduction to drum corps would have been when he started marching.
Right.
Like that's when I first learned about it, was when he was with Fusion. And on the weekends I would go with my parents, and we would go see his shows or drive him to where he had to be because he was also young then. So we were all traveling together. But that was my first introduction to drum corps, I think. And at first it definitely wasn't actually on my radar really, because I started as a woodwind player. I started as a sax player. And
Couldn't be me.
I like marching, but drum corps at that time definitely was like, oh, well, maybe not for me. But it was definitely something I was interested in. I was like, this is really cool. It's cool to see these shows. And I was in marching band at school, so I liked doing the shows and I enjoyed the whole activity as a whole. I just thought being a woodwind player, it's a little harder to access. But yeah, like you said, after COVID and everything, just more time with the marching activity as a whole. In 22, that was my junior year of high school.
Yeah.
And he was definitely interested in going back, and we had a bunch of other people at our school, like Grace, who also marched with us in Reading. We were interested in going, and Grace was also switching for a woodwind instrument. So at the time, it was like, oh, let's do it. Let's go try this thing out.
Yeah.
And I tried out the mellophone, and I ended up at Reading that season. Definitely was a struggle for me as a player. I enjoyed a lot of the visual stuff. I felt that was where I felt at home. I'm sure you guys knew. You guys definitely knew.
Yeah.
And
I'll pause you for a second. If you've watched the show, you're a fan of the show, Robbie and I talk about you frequently on the show all the time. For those of you who are watching the show now and you're kind of like, oh, like this person's cool. We did march with you in 22, and we say all the time that you are an absolute stud when it comes to your visual stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you struggled hard through the mellophone land.
It was interesting to see. I mean, yes, sometimes it happens with people. I mean, I think we get lots of really good players who show up and their movements kind of, they're struggling a bit. Right. But we rarely see someone so, bouncing the other direction where they're so at home visually and take to it so naturally, but then struggle with the other side of it, with the actual brass playing of it and adjusting away from their home instrument, as it were.
Yeah, I said it all the time. I followed you. You and I were next to each other a lot during the season, and I was like, "Thank God," because sometimes as older vets, we look at them and we go, "Oh man, high school kid." And like you said, there's the visual is always probably the thing that struggles a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
because you're not aware of your body. You're not really used to those
so
things.
unnatural. The things we do in this activity.
Yeah.
It's also it's the thing we've had less time to practice with, right? I mean, you've been learning your instrument or just music in general since third, fourth grade,
right?
Right.
You've not the college kids that end up at Reading.
Yeah. You do not get to practice movement at a high level unless you're in a dance group.
Yeah.
Right. So, you were just an absolute. I always say that all the time. At the end of I don't really care that you couldn't play everything. That's okay. I have more power for both of us, but you looked great doing it. So you're good, man. I always love that. So
and we always say you can hide playing in the sound. You can't hide visuals. In the feet.
Right? Absolutely. So you do that in 22, and so what happens next?
Yeah. So after that season, I knew I wasn't done with drum corps. I came back for a few camps in 23, and ultimately, I was there at membership day. I was there at least one or two winter camps.
That's back when I was still going to winter
camps.
And I didn't know where
Ethan
I was
still there too.
Right.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I had that the year I marched DCI. You always just show up for a few winter camps.
I remember losing both of you guys pretty much at the exact same time.
It was the same. I think it was the same camp that we came in, and he was like, "I'm marching cadets, so I'll be gone."
And he showed me some of the show music, and I was like, "Jeez!" It was the brass feature show movement.
There's a story in there as to why I now play mellophone.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you about that later.
That'll come later.
We'll definitely get to that. So yeah, So what happens then? So obviously 23, you come back and you're like, not so much. But then
I was very interested in staying. I think it was a combination of a lot of things. It was one, like he was going to be going on tour and not going to Bucks every weekend. So it was a little harder to get there at first too. I was also still a high schooler, and at the time I was thinking a lot about, I guess, the transition to college as well, and school. School has always been a big priority for us, and everything going on. So, and that's also something I think I've learned throughout. Like now, I think I have better thoughts on it, but at the time, it was very much like it feels very busy and hard to balance these different things.
Yeah,
and,
right.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
I have more thoughts on it definitely now, but at the time, it was very much like I want to get better at this thing. I wasn't satisfied with where I was at playing wise, and I knew I could get better, but at the time it didn't feel like I could put everything into getting better on that instrument. And so I ultimately didn't end up marching that season. And 24 is the next season after that. I had spent a season as head drum major in high school, and so that was my first time actually conducting a group and being in front of a group like that. And so I thought about it more, and I was like, this would be really cool to do in a drum corps setting too, be able to conduct, because that's something where I felt very comfortable, very excited to do that and pursue that. Not that I wasn't excited to play mellophone. I loved the mellophone as an instrument, and I wanted to learn more about it, but it was tough to fit in the time that I wanted to put into it to get better at it, to do that. So in 24, I was planning to audition for Cadets as well, because I knew Ethan was there. So, got the packet, I was ready, planning for the audition camps, and then they announced that they're not fielding, and then ultimately that they're not even going to be a thing. But yeah, once we learned that, I think it was more kind of the same thoughts came through my head again, where I was like, this is getting harder and harder to do, especially in college, trying to balance that side of things and getting to different camps, finding a new home. Ethan was definitely, he found Crown as a new home. For me, it was like, oh boy, like this is a lot to take on. Like I was like, looking at Cadets, I was like, this seems like something really cool that I want to go out for. Yeah. Trying to switch off of that and trying to find different things. It was a hard process.
It's tough. It feels like your momentum gets killed a little bit. Yeah. When you have an idea for a direction and something, it's like, this corps doesn't exist anymore. Like
I at least had like with me, there were a lot of cadets that ended up at Crown, especially
enough for a small ensemble. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially those first couple camps. So I at least had that kind of momentum. For someone like, him, who didn't really have that, like he didn't know them as well as I did. Of course, they like would know him, like, oh yeah, that's Ethan's brother. But like, it definitely kills your momentum when you're thinking of that, and then it just. So
did you end up auditioning anywhere in 24? Did you go to Crown and try to audition down there?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I didn't end up going to any auditions in 24.
Think you did,
Yeah. And then
So where are you at now, man?
This year,
This is what blew my mind when I heard this.
Absolutely out of left field when I heard this announcement. Mostly because we didn't know that you were still interested, in drum corps.
I definitely didn't put it out there that much that I was still like trying to find a home, find auditions.
No, just fair.
I feel like I barely talked to him about it too. Like he knew I was going to auditions, but a lot of times most people did not know. But so this year I was still interested. Like this goal of mine to march at a high level in DCI was always there. And that's why I kept coming back to it. And I was like, okay, this is not going to go away if I don't try and if I don't put myself out there to do it. So this year I'm going all in, like it's going to happen. I'm going to audition. And the first stop at that was actually Crown because I knew Ethan was there. And I was like, this once again feels like somewhere it would work out well logistically for us, as in like we could travel together, go to the same places.
Yeah.
And that would be cool. So I went to Crown auditions first. I went to the open auditions in November as a conductor and then ended up getting a call back to December. But that didn't work out in December. And then at that point I was like, okay, I tried my best. Like I did a lot. What else could I do? It was like the next day, Ethan showed me this. He put his phone up to me and he was like, look at this. And it was the Bluecoats post that was like, we're looking for conductors after their December camp. I
can't reenact exactly how that went. I was just scrolling Instagram and then I saw that and I just went.
Yeah. And I was like,
look,
I was like,
it's a sign.
Boy. Like that was at the moment I was like, oh, I don't know. Like that seems unlikely. And we can get into more about what happened there, but ultimately ended up going for it. And here we are now.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I mean, dude, it's such a cool. I mean, that story in itself is really cool. You know, you're trying someplace else. You obviously want to go march with your brother, and you know, and again, logistics. I totally get it. You know, I march with my son, and if he marched someplace else, and I couldn't even imagine trying to like do both of those things. It's like, you know, it's a crazy thing. So now you're at Bluecoats.
Yes.
And you're drum majoring this year, right?
It's a weird line that some DCI corps draw between drum major, conductor. Technically, my role is conductor, but I'm waving my arms.
Yeah, okay. You're a flappy arm guy. Gotcha. Yeah.
Can do you have another question? Because so this is going to be one of my questions, right? This is a lead into another question, I guess. Is the line between drum major and conductor, is it the extent to which it's a leadership role? Like, is that the sort of defining line?
I think it's different in every corps, and I can only speak on the experience that I've had at now experiencing the role in Crown and in Bluecoats. I think the line differs between each group. Some groups it's very hard.
Sense.
Like drum majors are the leaders, conductors they just wave their arms, they facilitate rehearsals with the Met, all that stuff. I think for Bluecoats specifically, from what I've experienced, the line isn't as sharp. I think we do function. We get to be a part of the leadership meetings and talk to all the leadership. So in a way, we are part of the leadership because we are leading those rehearsals sometimes. So yeah, it's been cool to also get that experience too. But it's also another interesting part to look at into that as someone who hasn't marched with the Corps before. That's a whole other thing too.
That's what I was going to ask about was entering what is basically a leadership role, right? In a corps, both a corps that's new and also when you haven't had that much leadership experience in corps in general before, right? And what that kind of feels like going in, because I'm sure it's in like a sort of equal mix of like very exciting and cool, but potentially a little, you know, scary at points. Yeah. What does that feel like, especially when you're going into like those leadership meetings?
Yeah, I think it's definitely very much like I'm trying to sit there and absorb as much as I can. I know as a member of the Corps, like every other leader is a vet. And there's a couple other conductors that are in a similar position to me where we haven't been with Bluecoats before. So we're there, we're trying to absorb, feel what the culture is like. I think that's been something that's been really cool to see. And then ultimately find our position within that. I think it's still something we're figuring out. Sure. I've only had one camp as an official member of the Bluecoats so far.
I guess so.
Definitely something to figure out throughout the summer as well. But right now it's very much a lot of absorb the culture, absorb everything that the other leaders are doing and their goals of how to go about doing drum corps as Bluecoats.
That's the way to do it.
I can tell you this as somebody who trained leaders for years, because that's what I did in the Army for a long time. That's the number one advice I always give to young people who are coming from, you know, we call them like a specialist in private roles into becoming an NCO or sergeant officers, is sit back and absorb. Understand what's around you before you come in and start to like, you know, like I am a leader, you know, and you start to go, you know, a little, I don't want to say like power hungry, but some people do that. Some people come in and go like, this is my new position. I will authoritate all of you, you know, and it's the right move, man. It's absolutely the right thing. So I'm happy to hear that you kind of like found that position or that place
it's cool
on your own. So my question is, how many other conductors are there?
That's what I was going to ask. How many conductors and drum majors
how many of you guys are there?
For Bluecoats this year, we have 2 drum majors and 3 conductors.
Okay. So I feel like more corps are doing the 5. Do you guys do, was it 3 in front, 2 on the 30s in the back?
We don't know where we are right now, but last year what they did was 2 in front and 3 in the back.
Right,
that's
3 in the back. I guess for Coates' show last year, that makes sense. They were all over the place.
Yeah, they were everywhere. So so that's super cool. Yeah, and that's, I mean, same thing. Like that's got to be a wild position to be in. I mean, obviously the Bluecoats have been fantastic the last decade, but they just won last year too. So going in and just kind of, I don't want to say falling into it, because I'm sure you put in a ton of hard work to do that, but
it's almost like just busting out the dorm. You're like, "What's up? I'm here now."
Guys,
give me conductor position.
So that's super cool. So I guess I'll move it over. This is a question for you, Ethan. Now that you're in your 3rd year at DCI with 2 incredible organizations, are you looking at a leadership role this year in some way, shape, or form with Crown? Is that something like how does their I guess choice?
Yeah, their leadership like selection process in a way.
It's very at Crown, at least it's very staff focused, where they'll kind of like pick who they want as section leaders. I'm not a section leader this year. There are some there's some people that have been there longer than I have that are doing a fantastic job at that.
Sure.
I'm sure there's lots of tough competition in the Crown Mellow section.
But still, like in that vein, we aged a lot of people out last year. So there's a lot of younger guys coming into the Corps this year. So what I've been trying my best to do is kind of just be that vet that they can look to anytime they're confused. That it's like, see that guy right there? Whatever he's doing at any particular given moment, you should do that.
Yeah, I call him middle management, you know, and that's a great place to be sometimes.
Yeah.
You can affect so much change in that position.
Like the way he was kind of explaining his process at Bluecoats, like we're very similar in that way where as soon as we get into a new place, like we're not the most like assertive people at first. Like I'm not going to barge in and be like, this is my role. Like, especially coming from cadets last year and, you know, people knowing that I have that background, I was very reserved at first in terms of I didn't know exactly what my place was. But, you know, having that background going through last year and now coming back into this year, I feel much more, you know, solidly in what I said of, you know, just doing my best to lead by example, even if I'm not in a formal leadership position.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is great of any drum corps member, you know, no matter what you're doing. Like you can lead in any position, even as rookies, you can lead.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you can just be
anyone.
I always felt like you were a great leader, you know, mini leader in the elephant section in 22 because you just are always doing the right thing all the time. Like, and that speaks volumes. I think both you guys are like that, honestly. The times that I've marched with you, because I've marched with both of you and when you were high school students. And I always felt the level of professionalism and poise and being prepared and showing up and doing what you're supposed to do. Like, it was just great. Like, you guys are the epitome of great drum corps members.
Like, that stuff's infectious. Like, just, it's not raw talent. I think that's going to carry you throughout the season. Like, that gets you in the door sometimes. But, like, the corps that separate themselves during the season are the ones that know how to, like, do drum corps the best. Yeah. Like I said, that's not talent. That's not being the best players. That's not being the best marchers. Yeah. But it's knowing what it takes in that process to become that.
Yeah. It's knowing the approach.
It's the approach. Yeah. And like you said, I think that's my best quality as a member. Like, I'm not the flashiest player. Like, I marched Carolina Crown. I'm definitely
probably a decent horn player. I would
doing okay, bud.
I'm not the flashiest player. I'm not the flashiest mover, but the thing I think I do the best is my approach to everything. Like, I'm going to go after every single rep with intention, with, like, you know, direction, and trying to maximize every single moment that I have on the field. And that attitude, especially during, like, the middle of the season when things just get so bogged down, like, you're tired.
Yeah.
Like, especially when, like, scores are kicking you in the butt a bit. It's really easy during rehearsal to just kind of check out.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of just take it for granted. But I think even just having one person that's always there reminding people, you know, like, job's not over.
Yeah.
And then that just grows and spreads, and then that's how you push through those moments.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I legitimately it's funny you say that. I think that skill of being able to, like, perform every rep is, like, I think one of the hardest skills to learn in drum corps.
Yeah.
It's so difficult because it's so easy. Like you said, on a 95-degree day, it's 3 p.m. The sun is beating you down. It's so easy to even if you're not consciously doing it, you know, phone in a few reps here and there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was absolutely perfect. There are definitely a fair share of reps I phoned in.
Definitely. But it's just right.
You gotta remind yourself.
It's that right. Like you said, it's that constant sort of reminder.
Yeah. That was always,
and it's the ability to catch yourself when you're slipping a bit and be like, let me lock back in.
Yeah, that was always my strength. Like, I'm a worker, you know, because ultimately that's what I think that is. It's just work. Like, are you here to do work, right? Is this experience? Are you going to let this time of your life, this moment in history, beat you down, or are you going to rise up above, you know, the difficulties, whatever they are at the moment, right? And can you keep pushing forward and being a great, you know, mentor, a good leader, a good whatever it is, and really just for yourself, you know, are you going to take on the challenge of the day and know that at the end of the day, when you close your eyes, did you put your effort in, right? Because that's really what drives most people greatness in life, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. How about you? I'm assuming you kind of take things the same way, and from that
it feels like you do from the outside perspective.
yeah.
I think similar. Yeah, a lot of it. Let's see. I think a lot of people go into drum corps thinking about scores. We always like. The corps that I've been, at least, I feel I've been lucky enough to be in environments where the score is not a thought in what we approach, like how our approach is.
Yeah,
like
you try to not have that be your driving.
And I feel like it's so adamantly like in places that I've been, it's so adamantly don't think about the score. Like I think it's something that the members would always preach, and more than like as a mindset, more like they'll say to everyone coming in like, don't think about it. Like that's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I'm very lucky to have been in those environments and to become the person I am through those. And so I think my approach to not just drum corps, but kind of everything is similar to that, where it's like I'm putting in the work so that at the end of the day, I can look back and not have regrets over anything.
Yeah.
I can say if it went my way, great. That's pretty cool. I worked for that. And if it didn't, then well, I put everything I could on the table. Right. And that was kind of how I approached the whole audition process, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch things a little bit because
Go
I
ahead,
want to get
pivot,
into the juicy
pivot.
stuff that everybody wants to hear about. Right?
Yeah.
I have two questions, right? Number one, do both of you know what your show is, or at least some of your show music? Number one, you don't have to tell me because I know you guys can't.
We just want to know if you know.
But if you know, and number
Or do,
two,
or do they
have
also
you-
at Bluecoats wait until June 1st when you're going to like, by the way, guys, you're going to hear the show name tonight.
Not just June 1st. It's literally the night
day,
of premiere.
like
It's
June
the night
29th.
of premiere.
I was about to say,
Half
yeah,
an
it's going to
hour-
be the end of June because it's fully after spring training.
half an hour before gate. That's when the announcement.
Okay, it's like, by the way, guys, are you doing an agriculture show? That'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
So number one is, do you have your music? Do you know what it is? Right. So that's
Yeah.
number one. Number two, have you told each other what it is? Have you guys spilled the
It's
beans
true.
to each other?
Because that would be the one acceptable
like
break in
oof, man.
secrecy.
Right.
Okay, so we have a lot of show music. We have 4 out of presumably 5 movements.
Okay.
That's usually how it is. Like we usually get movement 1 at like December.
Yeah.
And then each month.
Yeah, that makes
probably
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple
Another
more
movement.
pieces. Right.
That's how we did it at nights.
I
pretty
have
much.
no clue what our show is as of right now.
That's always fun. You guys take
year-
guesses.
Last year it was a lot easier, I think. I think our source music definitely pointed me in the direction of
Fire.
Prometheus.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we did our audition, like movement audition, was to another song from the Oppenheimer soundtrack.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
got our part 1 from last year, which was yet another song from the Oppenheimer soundtrack. So, I mean, at first we were thinking, bomb show.
Okay.
Be wild.
Which is
Your bomb show.
But eventually, when we start looking at the rest of the stuff that we got, I definitely wasn't the first one, but eventually, it's probably a Prometheus show. And
Right.
that's another thing I kind of want to get into later. The parallels between my 24 show and my 23 show, insane. It's
Oh, yeah. It's
actually
very,
insane.
Yeah.
very similar. Yeah.
So
You're like,
yeah. So we'll talk about this later. Do you know what your show is?
Yeah, do you guys know yet?
I know you guys don't know what the show is, but
Yeah, we don't. We haven't gotten to talk about this very much. We haven't seen each other that much since we came back from like winter break, really.
it makes sense. Yeah.
But I guess I do know some of the Crown stuff because I was at their early camps. So I've seen,
fair.
I've seen
Yeah.
some
Oh,
of
sorry,
that.
yes, sir.
I've seen some of that.
Infiltrator.
But beyond that, I
Spy.
don't know. I'm sure a lot of it has changed too. For Bluecoats right now, yeah, we don't know the show. We haven't gotten a ton of music yet. I'll say.
Interesting.
It's currently a little ambiguous how much we'll get, so I can't really say how much of a portion we have. But we have a few things, but I can't tell anything.
Yeah, oh, yeah, obviously.
Which we know. We
But
get
no,
it, you
I
know.
also
We
can't
just
tell
wanna-
myself. Like
You can't figure out.
I can't figure out exactly what it's going to be.
Dang.
But
Okay.
we're all pretty excited. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
So that always begs. So this is my crazy question, really, because I have brothers and sisters, right? And I know how competitive we were, right? And now you guys are going to get ready to go duke it out. I mean, you're both. I mean, 2 of the top 5 corps in the world, right? And in some cases, the top 2 corps, 3 corps, because even in 23, they were you guys were 2 and 3, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
you're
2 and 3, 2 and
right
3.
there battling it out. How much shit have you guys talked on each other so far?
I
Yeah,
will
has there been
say,
any healthy rivalry?
Not that much yet.
Okay.
I think when I think about siblings in drum corps, a lot of the times it's a lot more independent than what our paths have been.
Okay.
Because like we said when we introduced like our both of our individual paths is like I kind of like held your hand through the 22 season, not in like a
I think in a lot of ways I followed kind of in his footsteps.
There are a lot of things that like I felt very much responsible for like you at drum corps in terms of making sure that you knew the things that I learned the hard way, so that you didn't have to learn them the hard way.
Yeah.
So I mean I feel that is a bit different than most siblings in this activity. And then also like, you know, me being a horn line person, him being team hands, like it's not like I can just like trash his horn line and that hit as personally to him. Because then he's like, I don't care, I'm on a podium.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really matter who takes the out this year.
We'll see what happens throughout the course of the season, but so far it's been pretty tame.
We haven't gotten into it. And we don't often do that anymore.
We don't not too much.
Yeah.
But
you guys don't seem like heavy smack talkers.
No.
You guys have what's called a healthy relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't have a lot of that. I grew up in the 80s, okay, where we tried to crush everybody all the time.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's good. It's refreshing to hear because I mean, like obviously, like I watched you take care of him along the way. Like you guys were always together, and as you should be, you know, like through that process, and that sibling. There it is. That sibling bond.
Civil sibling bond.
Civil
go.
sibling.
One
Oh
word.
my god, yeah. The bond has stayed together in a positive way for you guys, and it's not so I don't want to say aggressively and like animosity and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah,
were you disappointed a little bit when you weren't going to make crown to be able to march with your brother?
I think that was always one of the driving factors of me wanting to pursue this as a big goal was, of course, I really want to do this. And this year it felt even more that because I know he's aging out and I know like this would be a really cool opportunity to get to march with him again would be really cool. Yeah. But still a really cool opportunity to march at the same time as him too. That'll be really
You'll
cool.
see each other on the road and that'll be cool.
Yeah.
And I also think
and
it's a value.
You're fielding these someday. Like I'm giving you these someday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To march at finals. How many more years do you have left?
Technically, I have a bonus year.
Okay, so
you have two more.
Two more after
2027. Yeah, two
2
years after this.
Yeah.
We'll see exactly what happens after this.
Yeah,
I'm really taking it one summer at a time.
Yeah.
One camp at a time. Really.
But I was gonna say it is as much as I'm sure it was rough learning that you're not going to be able to march at the same corps. It is also a cool and valuable experience to go to a corps where you don't have that one person to hold your hand, like that sort of like safety net in a way.
Yeah.
I'm sure you won't need it. Everything I've heard about Bluecoats culture is that it's like top notch.
Everything's
I will say, as much as I say like I hold his hand, he's very much able to hold his hand. Like I've never gotten that. Like I really like the analogy of like there's a difference between getting your foot in the door and proving that you belong there. Like I already said it like 10 minutes ago. Like I'm able to help him get his foot in the door sometimes, and that like I can introduce him as, hey guys, this is my little brother, and then people know him as, oh yeah, that's Ethan's little brother.
Yeah.
But he like on his own by like, not that I don't know how much I'd be able to help him because like I'm just me, but like he is very much on his own able to prove that he belongs places.
Oh sure.
Yeah,
So
I mean clearly, right?
Exactly. So like
Yeah.
I don't have any doubts.
Yeah.
Season.
I think it'll be a cool
Kind of like
social experience of anything, right?
Yeah.
Because it's natural, right? We did the same thing when I went to Blue Knights and we had Chris Cropper and we had Lydia there.
Yeah.
Right? Is that we tended, and we were all in the baritone section. We tended to stick together, right? Which is really nice to have, but also sometimes is nice to like not have that like fallback.
Yeah.
Of, like if you're gonna go talk to someone, it's like, well, you gotta
make new friends.
Got to make sure that you make friends, which is not hard on tour.
When you're forced to live with everybody all the time. Yeah, exactly.
But I think it'll be a cool and new perspective to sort of have.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Everything so far with Bluecoats has been great. Like the environment being, kind of on my own in that sense, where I don't have people there that already know someone in my family in that way, has been different and a really cool experience. I think it always has been helpful having him say like, well, don't forget, like, bring this, or like, well, don't bring that. You don't need that. Like, with packing things, like, I always know I can ask him, like, do I need this on tour? Like, things like doing drum corps, I know I can ask him questions about that.
Right.
But definitely, I've always tried to take my own approach to how, like, obviously we're in different sections too. Like, that's completely different. But I think one of the silver linings, and also at first, when I went to the November camp for Crown, the first open audition, he wasn't there.
I wasn't there. Yeah, no. College marching band got in the way. I couldn't
Oh,
go to that
interesting,
first
yeah.
camp, so
So
he
my
was on his own,
my first
and then
camp.
people were like, I remember getting tested like, is your brother at this camp?
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't tell him.
Where the hell are you? Why is your brother here?
The whole time there,
Is he replacing you?
I didn't want to go in and have the identity be like, I'm here because my older brother's here, because it wasn't. That
Yeah.
wasn't exactly
Yeah,
why. Like,
no,
it was a factor. It was cool.
Yeah,
it
it
would
was
have been
a-
cool.
yeah.
But that definitely wasn't something that I told other people there at first. So when other people figured out, they were like, "What?" They were like, "I
Right,
didn't
since
know
you don't
this."
want your whole identity tied to him necessarily, just have it be connected.
Right.
And honestly, that's sometimes a lot of what people do sometimes, where they go in and be like, you're following your brother's footsteps a little bit going down there, and you go, that was him. That was like, it's almost a way of bolstering yourself and, like, your quality of who you are as a person. Because look, I have family here, so we're gonna be good. You know what I mean? Like,
I never wanted to come off like
yeah.
that.
No, so, I mean, it's a good thing that you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Because I think that comes off.
It can come off.
Yeah, it can come off a little arrogant.
definitely.
People try and use it as a substitute, like you said, for their own actual
exactly.
quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, he's perfectly able to
Right.
do his do the best on his own.
Yeah.
So like he doesn't need me.
Super cool. So as the season moves on, oh my God, I had this question: how broke are both your parents right now? trying to pay, or are you guys getting scholarships? Like, because one drum corps cost
Especially-
is a lot, right?
Especially
And college too.
yeah, college, 2 drum corps, and pretty notoriously not cheap drum corps.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of just, I mean,
And now
as if any
I
DCI corps
randomly
is.
just went up to them and said, "Hey, I want to do indoor." That's on top of it too.
Are you
Oh,
marching
man.
indoor right now?
Yeah, I'm with United.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. You 2 or 1?
One.
One.
They
Very
brought
cool.
back a Viz ensemble, and I said,
Nice.
"I'm decent at
What
that."
So there's a bunch of you there, right?
Oh yeah.
What
Yeah,
is-
a
come
lot
on,
of people.
Grace is there too.
I have
Right?
this
And
aside.
Adam's
What
there
is so wait?
too.
I don't follow the world of indoor that much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Is it? You said indoor. It's a visual ensemble.
Viz ensemble.
So what do you?
I'll be real. Most of the time,
Is
we're
it
kinda
just your body?
We're kind of prop help most of the time, but
Okay.
in comparison to like their past shows, I feel like we allow at least the battery members we open up the floor a lot more for them to do actual battery things instead of having to worry about them doing
Okay.
prop stuff.
See,
And then
I
also
didn't-
like it's not just that. Like, yeah, we add a lot visually to the show.
So
Yeah,
so
that's
UP
cool. I wish I would
UP
be a
right
video.
now has a Blue Devil, a Carolina Crown, and a Crossman Hornline member in their.
A couple
Visual
more too.
ensemble.
Oh, we can go down. We can go
That's
down.
pretty
through-
wild.
It's the wildest, because United just brought the Viz ensemble back, so it's not like a couple groups that have had like
the age
Viz
limit on
ensembles as a
that?
staple.
26? Is that what age out is?
Just missed it.
It's 20
Yeah.
is it
Could have
really?
done it.
There's an age out.
I'm
There's-
sure.
there's
I'm
age
sure
out-
it's less
I
than
didn't know it was that
27.
late.
Yeah.
There's age out for indoor percussion, but there's not for world class guard. Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So
if you're
I
looking at
think it's
spin.
26 or 28. I can't remember what it is for indoor percussion. If you're out there, just go ahead and tell me what it is.
Yeah.
I'm
Pretty sure it's
somebody
still
knows.
just 22.
Is it really?
I thought it was slightly older.
I thought it was pretty
For some
young.
reason, I
I
thought it
thought
was
it was
25 or
older.
something.
Yeah.
I
thought it
think
was
that's open guard. I'm talking out of my ass here. I don't know what I'm talking about.
We might be thinking of
So,
C2's
anyone-
age limit.
Anyone watching, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Right.
C2's age limit was you have to be 25 or
Yeah,
under,
25
or you
or
have to be
under,
John
yeah.
Malloy.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
John Malloy and
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
him a G bugle.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You need to sit on the sideline and play a double C
Yep.
Yeah.
and be John Malloy.
Yeah. God, I love John. I miss him so much. Yeah. So that's super cool. So you're doing indoor. Okay.
That's
so back
awesome.
to my
Back to
original
the
question.
question.
Yeah.
Back to the
Like,
question,
oh my
yeah.
God. So my question more than anything else is, because I have children that suck the money out of me, right? Are
Strange.
either of you like paying any part of your tuition and stuff, or is it basically your parents kind of like really taking care of you guys and letting you?
We are both extremely, extremely fortunate, and like we both really recognize that of like how like I said, we're so fortunate that our parents are A, in a position, and B, willing
Yeah.
to like support us through
Right.
all this. Like from the moment I said I wanted to do drum corps, like of course they were like, what is this? Like, what is an activity?
Yeah, I had the same thing with my parents.
And then I said, hey, I'm going to ship myself off for an entire weekend at a time. But even just
Trust
through
me,
all
they're
that.
happy about that part.
Exactly.
Go away.
Finally.
Throughout all that, they have never stopped like supporting me, both like, you know, in like doing what I want to do, but also like financially. I recognize how big of an impact that is nowadays, especially. So like it's just I am so extremely like fortunate that that's not a worry that I have to have.
Yeah. I say that both to you, not to call you guys out for being like I don't know, not supportive of your parents, obviously, but more from the perspective of having a great family that's really supporting you guys through that. You know, like because obviously I'm a parent, you know, and Mark's with my son, and making sure that he has, I don't want to say no worries, but like that the financial portion of things is not something he has to worry about on top of school, on top of maybe a job that you guys have if you're working, you know, wherever. It's just, hey, look, this is an experience and a place to have personal growth in life that we want you to experience before you can't do it anymore, and before you move on into real world. And then you have these memories and these experiences that help you grow as individuals, as young men, you know, as you move into the world. And that's such a powerful thing. So that was more of a shout out for mom and dad. So that,
right.
So that, you know,
I do want to like one last thing like I do want to say on that note is that it's kind of cheesy, but like they both are like massive inspirations for me because, you know, when they came here, like they both immigrated when they were younger.
Okay.
So they didn't have these kinds of opportunities. They were so focused on like, you know, building themselves a life in America that they didn't get to do these kinds of things. Like the idea of doing something like this for like, say our dad during college, he would never have been able to. So I think the fact that we are able to do these kinds of things, it's like it just really shows how well they've done for themselves and how far that they have been able to make it.
And it's inspiring that their goal has always been to make it not a worry for us, and that we're lucky enough to have that, because like even for them, we don't come, like our family isn't very musically like experienced.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is
this was completely
this is an entirely
very
new
unfamiliar,
field.
definitely for
That's
them
how my parents are,
originally.
And
my
so parents weren't either. Yeah, it's the same thing for me.
them being willing and encouraging for us to do what we really want to do, like explore our passions, even though they didn't push us towards this exact direction.
Even
but
if they don't always understand it, they're always going to be there for us.
and that's been amazing.
My parents are always the same way. I very similar position, right? When I was in high school and college, I just felt super fortunate because, like I said, they were never super musical. I think my here's a wild thing. I don't know if you ever knew this. My dad knew George Hopkins. Did you know that? Growing up, because he grew up in like, you know, the southeastern Pennsylvania area.
Okay.
And his brother, my uncle, was involved in like a little like junior like drum line. He was a drummer.
Okay.
So they knew of the Hopkins. Right?
Okay.
They knew them. They weren't like buddy.
Yeah. He knew
Right?
the Hop.
But when
was.
when everything like broke about George Hopkins, my dad was like, I know him.
It's like, oh, geez.
Jeez, yeah. But but besides that connection, right? Not super musical people, but they always supported me because they were like, you say this is important to you, and that means it's important, right? And that means it's important for them. Right. And they were gonna put forth that support. I was really, I mean, partially because, as I said, I'm a product of that, but like I always really appreciate the parents who worked hard with the goal in mind that their kids would not have to face the same struggles and could have more opportunities and get to do the stuff they love, like you guys are getting to do. You know,
super cool.
That's really like, you said it's inspiring to you. It's inspiring to me too. You know.
Yeah, I agree with it too. You know, like I had parents. Both my parents were jocks. You know, I'm a giant person. Like I'm a big guy. So like I grew up playing sports. It's all I ever did. And I found my passion in music. And when I told my dad I wanted to give up on baseball, because like I was getting ready to like look at like drafting and like all the other kind of good stuff too. And I told my dad, I was like, I'm kind of done with this, Dad. And he was like, oh, cool, thousands of baseball years down the drain. He's like, and you want to go play on a field? And there was some resistance at the forefront. He's like, this is really what you want to do with life. He's like, okay. and they were just like, all right, cool. And, here I am 25 years later, still doing it.
Yeah.
So
Apparently
it was the right choice for me,
Yeah.
obviously. And my parents have always been supportive. My mom still comes to a show every single year. She has no idea what she's looking at. She still has no idea. 25 years later, she's just like, it was great, I guess,
It's great. My parents, the first show they saw, it was a Friends and Family Day.
Okay.
So they came to Buckfield. And then pretty much their main, and it was in 2015, so a very tough show. We're running the whole time. But basically the main thing they said, there was like, you guys were going so fast. I think that was their main takeaway, was like, they just felt that the intensity was so much more.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's all they needed.
Yeah, definitely like 2019 and the past 2-ish years, the years that I'm not marching and he's marching, where I go to shows with my parents, it's a lot of, I know they don't need it, but a lot of times is them asking kind of what's going on.
Yeah.
And me trying to explain certain things, like that's a baritone. That one's a mellophone.
That's a mellophone. That's a baritone.
But they're getting much better at it. And
Long
you're
Asian
learning.
kid, he's that side of the field.
That's crazy. That's
like, that one's Ethan.
There he goes.
It helps when my hair was bleached in 23.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's
True.
easy.
That was
You were
helpful.
pretty easy to spot.
So that's cool. You know what? So transition.
Yeah.
Segues are cool.
Oh, yeah.
So
Segue.
I want to talk about 23 just for a second.
Yeah.
You were at Cadets.
Oh yeah.
So it obviously having that home, and you already talked about like wanting, that's where you really wanted to go. You tried C2 like when you were just a little baby, a little baby high schooler, right? So being able to march Cadets is obviously probably part of your dream.
Yeah.
And then what? It obviously doesn't exist anymore. What is it like to be part of the last group of the current last group of cadets?
Yeah.
Is there? I know. Can you just talk about it? I guess maybe for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like there's a lot of layers to that, because of course there were those months in between when they announced that they weren't fielding, and then eventually when they announced that they had folded. Like there's different like emotional reactions to both of them, but I guess looking back on it now after having marched a year with Crown, I don't know. Like I said, there's so much influence that they had, especially over like this region. Both in marching
honestly,
bands,
over Crown too.
Like,
oh yeah,
I'm looking at it, like all of our staff, like most of the guys at the top of our chain, or either came down like the Garfield pipeline, or even like got their starts at Cadets, or like maybe they aged out at Cadets. Like, there's a lot of influence there, and I guess, I mean, that definitely had a big part of why I felt so at home at Crown, but I think it's just like thinking about that kind of influence in other drum corps into, all age corps as a whole being so centralized to this area of the country. I think someone, I forget where, but I think someone made a comment to me about like, what's going to happen now that, Cadets is gone. And then, same thing as I'm doing right now. It's just like, I don't know exactly how to organize these thoughts, but like, I'm thinking about these kinds of things, like the influence that they have, how widespread it is. And I'm thinking, like, with that being in place, I guess, like, I can take a bit of solace in the fact that I don't think they're ever truly going to be gone. That kind of mentality, like, we see it in the Bucks guys that aged out there. Like, you can tell they marched there.
Oh, yeah.
Just by the way that they approach drum corps, even all these years later.
Yeah.
Like, there's an aura to someone that has been through that experience and understands it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm that jacket, like, ever since that day, almost a year ago that they announced that they were flying, I look at it a bit differently now.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot that comes off from just that jacket and the bead that I have around my neck now.
Yeah.
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 And I think, for what it's worth, like you said, I don't think their influence is ever going to be truly gone. And especially as long as there's still people that march there or were taught by people there, they can carry out that sort of mentality of excellence. That's what's going to keep the important parts of their influence and the positive parts of their influence alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There was a lot of, I don't want to say negativity. It's not the word I want to use, but there was a lot of mixed feelings.
It's a very,
obviously.
how defined that, like, that entire culture was, there's definitely bad parts.
Yeah, it's I mean, there are parts that are definitely less than desirable for a lot of people, right? And there are still people out there that had genuinely great experiences with that organization, and that carry, like you said, the embodiment of what you learn and what you grab from being a cadet, right? And I know one of the most powerful things, and here's the thing, like it's besides maybe the troopers, because I actually did like Legacy Corps with them, the cadets are my closest DCI experience because I made cadets in 03 and then unfortunately was unable to compete, right? So they're my closest piece, and all my friends were kind of there too through all those years. And it was really cool last year to watch you guys in your little small ensemble kind of play that. And I don't know if you ever, I'm sure you have watched it on YouTube maybe once or twice. There's a couple of them. The volume of views and the amount of people that were so appreciative of that effort, which I'm sure at the time didn't seem like a lot of effort, but it's a very emotional thing to kind of go through and play, those ballads and there's other pieces that are associated so closely with the cadets, and really be able to, I think it was this really powerful healing that I think a lot of people,
it definitely was
some catharsis,
and you get to be part of that a little bit, and I think that's a really cool, I don't know, piece of history I think you get to be part of, which is really neat, So I thank you, because I know I was like, I remember watching it and going, wow, that's super cool. Because there was a lot, like I said, a lot of people with mixed feelings, a lot of negative feelings that were like, thank God they're gone, and all these other things too. And there are a lot of people that I think felt scared to kind of go, I'm upset that they're not here anymore. And I was never one of those people.
It's one of those things that's bittersweet, because you can you can recognize, I think, it's unfortunate that everything that happened around that core folding is
it's
really,
it's
it's unfortunate and it's difficult to talk about.
Right.
But I think you can still miss the positive parts, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's demonized to appreciate the positive parts sometimes. Yeah. Right. I think it's, you
can have a nuanced approach to it. And
you
be like, I miss these parts.
Right. When you have 1 or 2% of the people that have part of that organization that have a negative experience, and that's not, obviously lowering that situation for them whatsoever, but there's 98 to 97% of other people had very positive experiences that were very good for them. They were life-changing, like you guys are going through right now, and having all these new experiences that are going to change your life for the positive as you move forward. Right. To be able to stand up, and I had a hard time with that last year, was to be supportive of the people who were losing such a positive influence on their life, and they felt like they couldn't say it because it was, they were basically, I want to call it cancel culture, but you were going to get yelled at or screamed at because like, oh, well, thank God they're gone, and you have to be okay with them being gone, and like, it's just not the way I felt about it. So I was, when you guys came out and played the ballad, and when you represented there was what, 12 or 14 of you guys down in Crown, something like that. I was so excited that
it was really cool.
There was a grouping of you that went to one place and said, we're going to kind of keep this alive a little bit for this season to kind of help people heal and move through that. So I wanted to say it to you from me, because again, it's a piece of my life that I appreciate, and I thought it was pretty awesome. So
it was really cool to see.
Yeah. So you've been sitting there quietly. Let's move on to something a little not so heavy.
Not so cadets focused.
Yeah, not so cadets focused. So So this is your first tour, right? Your first time you're going to go on.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for moving into the season?
Boy, there's a lot.
You get to spend half a season in a college dorm.
Must be nice.
I hear Bluecoats have really really great situation where they're organized and kind of how they do training camp and all that kind of good stuff too.
I've heard just in general they treat extremely well.
Yeah.
I guess, well, I don't have anything to compare it to, obviously, but I also haven't experienced it yet.
Sure.
But I'm very excited for everything. I'm excited to go to Buc-ee's. I've never been to Buc-ee's.
Oh, it'll be great.
I keep telling him that every time he goes to Buc-ee's.
Love Buc-ee's.
I try to get something for him every single time I went.
Yeah, and that's always been cool. I'm trying to think. It's hard to think of one thing I'm most excited for.
Tell me all the things. It's okay.
Oh, boy.
Whatever's the first thing that comes to your mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to be part of a production again. It's been a little bit since I've been part of a marching production. And that's always, my favorite part is always connecting with the show on a personal level and taking what I can out of my own experience marching in it. Because that is always, to me, the most special thing about the marching arts. It's a show that exists only for this amount of time.
Right.
And then once it's over, it's over. And you can watch it.
You put 100% of yourself for every waking and sleeping moment, for like,
basically
for
all the tour dreams.
Like you put into what is eventually just like 13 minutes maybe on Lucas Oil
Yeah.
And it's just,
and then that group of
different.
Like 160 people can walk away with it, and they all shared that experience, and no one else will have the same thing. But that's a really cool feeling, I think, to finish a production like that at the end. So I'm excited for everything in between of creating that whole process. Yeah.
Very cool.
There's something cool in the fact that a drum corps show is a transient thing.
It
exists for a while, and then there's a hard cutoff. And that show doesn't exist anymore. You know, there's something, it makes it special, and it makes you, as we were kind of talking about earlier, want to make sure that you're savoring and putting all your work in every
that
rep.
Is like the one thing I want to say is like those rehearsal days in the middle of the season, like just don't check out during those days. Like those are going to be the days you miss the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's weird. Like as excited as you are, your favorite day of tour or like your favorite days looking back might be like the show days, might be the big show days. The ones that you're going to miss the most are those rehearsal days.
Like day 23 of spring training.
Exactly.
You know?
I think, the whole season, my goal is definitely to live as much as I can in those moments, like in those specific moments, because I don't know, I feel like I heard it somewhere else the other day, but someone said something like, you ever have a moment that is so good, like, you start missing it while you're still in it.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's the feeling a lot of times when it comes to this, and recognizing that and trying to live as much in the moment as possible is my goal, definitely, because like, I don't know what exactly it'll look like after this summer. I really do want to just take it one summer at a time, and that way definitely one day at a time while on tour is like appreciating each day as its own thing.
I remember I think I told this story, I think when Grace and Caroline were on tour on the podcast, but I remember the story of spring training, and we didn't have your cushy dorm rooms. We didn't even have a spring training site. We were in like 7 different locations. But either way, we're deep in the heart of spring training. We're at some, I think we were in Pueblo, Colorado, which is basically New Mexico. So it's, super hot. I think we saw one cloud the entire 5 days that we were there. And I remember I was walking to the food line or something. I was just so tired. I was in the middle of it, and part of me was like, I've been doing band for so long now. I just want to, I want to be doing anything else, right? But I had that moment where I kind of reminded myself, right? I've been like, in, 75 days, I'm not going to be doing band anymore, right? I'm going to get what I want right now, is I'm not going to be doing band anymore after this certain amount of time. But when that happens, I'm going to be wishing that I was back. I'm going to be wishing I was back here right now, right? And so just like checking in and checking in with that little bit of perspective every once in a while. Right, I found that was a helpful exercise. I mean, I know I'm in the thick of it right now, and some part of me would rather be in air conditioning or like playing a video game or reading or doing anything else. But I'm gonna have all the rest of my life to do that, and I've only got these 80 days right here. Right, it doesn't necessarily put a chip or skip in your step, but it helps you be more present. Right, it helps you give you some of that nice perspective.
There's a old person saying that we like to say in old people land is that youth is waste on the young, and it is that perspective that I think so many people find it hard, or a lot of people find it hard when you're young, because everything is so new all the time. There's not a lot of reminiscing, because what are you reminiscing about when you were 10? There's not a lot of that exists, right? So as you're going through it, having that mindset that you're having the mindset that you said, that's such an important process, I think, to really be able to enjoy as many moments as you can, right? Because they are fleeting. They will go by, and then all of a sudden one day you'll be old like I am, and you'll go, if only one day when, and then, it goes away, and then you try to hold on to what little you have left until then it's just gone. Then you try to live vicariously through your children.
Yeah.
And you
keep
do all
marching
kinds.
Your 40s. You're still doing it.
You're
still doing the thing.
Trying. It gets harder and harder every day, man. It's good, man. I'm glad you have that mentality. Because it's, I think personally, I think it's the right mentality. It's the best. It's the best mentality.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure I'll have to remind myself of that sometime.
Yeah. There will be days where
it's hard. You're gonna have
but
to,
that's the
you're gonna hit a wall
approach.
a couple of times.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. And having seen how you conduct yourself and how we've been talking about how to conduct yourself, seeing how you conduct yourself in rehearsal and what we've been talking about all the time, I think you'll be able to do that pretty well.
And you'll be fine. You're a flappy arm guy, all right? Like, come on,
Exactly.
let's face it. You know, like
they're going to be running through
of all the jobs to have.
Run around, yeah.
They're going to be running through the ending of the opener over and over and over again. You're going to be like, man, must be tough.
Those guys look like they're really working hard.
You guys look so tired down there.
I will say, being someone who has marched on the field and now off the field, I think it's a shift in the difference between like physical and mental.
I was about to say 100%.
The mental,
in my mind. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's honestly, I remember years ago, this was talking to Matt Heckman when he was in his second year as Horn Sergeant in 2015, my rookie year. I remember him saying, he was like, I barely do more actual work than I did when I wasn't Horn Sergeant, but now I'm doing 50% more mental work.
Yeah.
Right. I figure it's the same
exactly
thing, especially with drum major, you know, any kind of wavy arms, like that whole, the onus to perform and get every single rep right is so much more on you. If I miss my dot once, or I like step off with the wrong foot or something, I can just correct it and maybe two people behind me will see. But when you're up conducting, you're like, you are keeping the core together in a way, you know?
And not only that too, you're going to have responsibilities well past, whether it's lining fields first thing in the morning, or getting everything else prepped, or having leadership meetings in the evening after everybody else is relaxing and settling down. Like, it definitely has its own challenges. Trust me, I'm not. I say that because I always trash on the wavy arm people. But
part of me is like, honestly, I don't think I could do the conducting thing.
God,
both because I would miss moving too much, and because I think I'm good at putting a lot of effort in every rep, but I think one of my struggles is like focus and basically just avoiding nixing all ticks from reps. And I would just struggle. I would struggle with that a lot.
That's definitely something I'm still working on. Like last camp, like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, whatever, somewhere in Texas, I talked to Peyton, who's like she's a mellow tech, but also our like conducting instructor.
Okay,
cool. Yeah.
I was telling her we were doing some reps as just team hands, and I was like, I'm making mental errors right now, and I'm trying to avoid doing that because I know. Oops.
That's me. It's all my bad.
I'm just trying to avoid mental errors, but then for the rest of the camp, I started approaching with a different mindset of more like not avoiding errors, but just aiming for perfection each time.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to avoid the mistakes,
towards what you want to do, not away from what you don't want.
Right. Yeah. And
right. Yeah, that's a great way to do it, right? Because if you're so focused on like, don't mess up, then when you mess up, you go, I messed up. And then that's, an extra second wasted, right? Right? Yeah. As opposed to you mess up and you're like, doesn't matter. I'm heading towards, right? Still heading towards, like you said, towards what you want.
Yeah. So here we go. I'm going to change topics again because that's what I like to do.
Go for it. Yeah, segue, man.
Around. So I think I have two things that I want to end on with you guys. Number one, who wins this year, you or you? What's the wild? Because we do wild predictions on this show, right? And you have to. You got to fight for what you fight. Is it either of you? Do either of you think? Oh my God, I can't ask you that question because you're not going to say no to it. But let me ask you. I'll rephrase the question because that's a terrible question. Are the fans of both of your organizations going to like what you guys are preparing so far?
Yeah. Rather just what's in store for them.
Yeah. What's in store? Is it something that they're going to appreciate? Is something that's familiar? I know you can't tell me what it is. I understand that part, but any insight to the show and how
it seems to be shaping
how you think us the meager people of population,
the big Crown and Bluecoats fans, right? Of both of us.
Yes,
here.
we're huge Crown and Bluecoats fans.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Either one.
So I have no clue how people are going to react to our show itself because I've tried the past couple of years to predict, this is going to be the moment, or like I don't think they're really going to like this as much as this. Dead wrong, pretty much every single time. So
really?
I don't really want to go in with expectations about that. But like all I'm going to say is that this year, Ground has a bit of a chip on its shoulder right now. Especially in-house, we feel like people have kind of counted us out. Like, we built a reputation for ourselves of being perfect. So when we're anything less, they say, that's not Carolina Crown. And then they count us out. So, I'm walking into this season, at least personally, with like, I'm kind of mad about that. I'm walking with like, I know it doesn't seem like it based on how I act outside. I am angry. There's
good
pure like everything I do this season. There is vengeance and like rage behind it, and my only hope is that is infectious. Other people latch on, not the anger part of it, but like the desire to
fight.
drive, and just keep going. Like
there's a little something to be said for the man too angry to die, like cores. I love it. I love a good crown out for vengeance. Horn line.
Big fan.
Yeah. Like I said, their entire.
I think that's what's gonna make our show this summer.
Their entire 2012 show is one of my favorite shows ever, and it just feels like the whole time they're like trying to reach out and grab the judges by the throat and demand first place.
Yeah.
Right, and it becomes one of my favorite shows ever. Yeah. Some of my Buck shows that were the favorite were the ones that were like
the year after they lost.
Yeah, exactly. The year after they lost, and all the vets came back and were like
mad,
just raging. Yeah.
Right, but it gives when it's like you said when you don't get hung up on that little bit of anger and you're just hungry for it, right? And you let that drive you instead of holding you back and just simmering in it. Oh, beautiful things can happen, especially with an East Coast mentality core.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Do you feel like that's kind of the same for Bluecoats this year? Because there's all these rumors, right? Because you look at there's people online talk about statistics and everything else too. And the last time,
16
exactly.
The last time any core has, the lowest drop we've seen was Santa Clara going from 18 to 19 and dropping to third. There's a general pattern of core that's not the Blue Devils wins
dropped to fifth this season.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But the cores come out, right? Yeah. They come out, they win a championship, and then they have a bold show next year, but it just doesn't quite get it, right?
Doesn't quite hit,
so I would assume there's a similar kind of like, there might be a similar like, we are not going to let that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they know. Everyone there knows. It's because they see what people say, and we know what happened. I think, obviously, I'm still pretty new to the organization as a whole.
Right.
My first experience there was less than 2 months ago, but as part of the organization now and seeing how the culture is, that obviously the goal is to prove last year was not a fluke.
I love that.
Like people know that they won, and still the approach didn't change. I think seeing what everyone's going for, they know they won. That doesn't change how they're doing anything really.
Good.
Yeah, that's the way you do it.
It's always
except Blue Devils keeps winning.
Yeah, that's exactly how they keep winning. Yeah,
it's always I say we, and me as a new part of the Bluecoats.
Yeah,
we are the Bluecoats. We do what we do. If we win, that's super cool. The stars align. There's a lot of luck that goes into making that happen, but we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. And for your question of like, should the people be excited?
Yeah,
I think so. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I wish I knew
cool
more.
Vibes so far.
It's been cool vibes. I wish I knew more, but I'm very excited. And I think
Cool. Yeah. And I think you answered my question exactly kind of the way I wanted it answered, because I didn't know how to frame it, which was, are we going to get really great shows, like in your opinion, like that the crowd really wants to hold on to? And I think I want to call it a violent horn line from Carolina Crown. I think it's what everybody wants.
I think,
and just to have the kind of, because your shows are always, the Bluecoat shows are always so like weird and out there, but somehow perfect and like
weird and somewhat avant-garde, but also very populist.
Yeah,
very appealing.
Yeah, there's such a great that the Bluecoats have really embodied a lot of that over the years. So I'm excited to hear that there's still a lot of energy coming out of there, because there can be a lot of fight that goes into that. I was part of Reading's first championship in the last 20 it is 20 years ago, and I spent 8 years fighting hard for that,
clawing up to the top.
And I remember in 2005 we won, and everybody was just like, oh, thank God. And in 2006 was a struggle because because everybody was just like, it was a mass exodus. We worked, we fought, we're good, we're taking and we lost probably 50% of the horn line that year, and they just left.
Yeah.
And so the 2006 year was a tough year to kind of fight back on, because you have members that leave, or you have members that are rookies last year, maybe their second year, and still have 1 year left, and they go, whew, got my medal, So it can be hard sometimes to kind of keep that fire and passion going. And I'm happy to hear that that's going to happen, because the Bluecoat shows have been some of my favorites over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So
I'm very excited to see what both cores cook up.
Robbie and I talked about it many times on the show. We're very interested to see what Crown does this year because there's been some it's like they're not bad shows, but they're not quite. I mean, we've been watching Crown I've been watching Crown for 20 years.
Yeah,
they're not quite what I feel like Crown is just yet. So I'm excited to see that all you guys there are kind of like ready to get in there and to take it home.
I'm very excited. Crown, I feel like Crown's horn line the past 3 years obviously has every year sounded like top notch in terms of quality.
God, so good.
But I don't know, it feels like they've locked in and like they're in the pocket, they're playing great, but it feels like it doesn't just it hasn't quite had that like snap that it does sometimes. Yeah. And I feel like the emotion that you're describing of like a little bit of fire in the belly, you know, is like exactly what a horn line with that kind of clarity and quality of approach needs. It's just that little sizzle, you know, little sizzle to put some drive in the step.
Can I just say to you this, Ethan? I remember last year I was watching the show a bunch of times, you know, because I watch all the shows, and I was really excited about parts of your show last year, and then there's some parts I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Like those other things, but then I heard it at our home show, and I was sitting kind of like, I don't know, it was like a 30-yard line, maybe 5 rows up from the stands because it's a fairly smaller stadium there. And I remember, and I was like, holy hell, the horn line was just absolute fire. And I was like, God, you guys played so good.
The horn line was so clean last year.
There was so much more to experience in person than I was able to get through the camera and through flow marching or whatever else I was working on. And I was like, oh, I get it now, because I hadn't seen the Crown like live for a couple of years. And I was like, whoa, man. So kudos to you guys, because
I know such a good horn line, just like
so good,
itching for more.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to see.
Crazy.
Crown mellow line is always
this is so
nuts.
Cool. So
I'm very excited to see in the design trend for Bluecoats. I feel like they found a cool sort of niche to have for like this almost like 18 to 22 season of like this somewhat groovy kind of thing, and then they made a bit of a pivot last year, and I hope the design stays on that in that area, right, in that playground, and explores that space a bit. I think that's what Bluecoats tended to do. They have like 4 or 5 year stretches of like similar designs, and I'm very excited to see.
I hope Crown goes back to a story. I like a good story. I like a good Crown story.
They've done stories for the past 2 years.
It's not the same.
King Arthur and Prometheus. They're like 2 of the biggest story archetypes.
Here's the thing. I thought Prometheus was a little bit too like
Promethean. Was that the?
It was too like broad like idea. I didn't mind the Crown. I didn't mind the King Arthur, the round table show. I think it missed. I think there was a lot more you could have done with that, but it was still fine. Music. But like when I watch like great Crown shows that I really love, like I love 16 for you. 16 specifically, because I love that Wild West. There's a character, there's somebody I can follow. It's very much like a round table show, and I love that Crown kind of just they tell a story so well. And I hope that stays in that realm.
I want to go in the opposite direction. I want Crown to get weird with it, because 13, like 12, 13, and 19 are 3 of my favorite Crown shows, and it's like, what's 13 about? Who knows? Who cares?
I think it's a sailboat.
Love and the speed of light, and there's a sailboat. I don't care. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess what we'll do, I guess we're up there in time now, guys. I promise you, I could talk to both of you guys forever.
Yeah.
So I guess my final question I'll leave for both of you is, what is one thing? Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what it is, right? You guys want to leave your adoring fans with before we finish things up?
Yeah, maybe people that are maybe looking, right? I mean, you're both marching with 2 top tier groups, right? Groups that everyone I think loves and would love to march with. You know, what's one thing you want to say? It doesn't even have to be advice. Just like, a thought to share.
Yeah, just a thought to share.
Yeah.
We're so bad with these kinds of questions.
It's hard.
We need so much direction with questions.
Okay.
I could
go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, go for it.
You
go
try
for
first.
it.
I'll try
give you some jumping off points.
It's like it's not trying. Anything is good.
Yeah.
Looking at the auditions process, I think something that I always tried to tell myself, but didn't always feel the most secure on, but it felt good to hear sometimes, was that like it always works out. Like everything will be okay, especially in the audition process of being uncertain about everything, unsure. I'm trying to think. One of my friends before the Crown callback had told me, like, when one door closes, another door opens. Like that's a common saying. And then my thoughts on that at the time were like when the crown door closes for me, it felt like the whole drum corps door was closing.
Oh, okay.
That was kind of how I felt after the crown camp, definitely. I think I talked about that a little bit like afterwards. But I never could have expected anything to happen how it is now. Like I didn't expect to be where I am now. And not saying that if I didn't end up where I am now, I wouldn't be satisfied. I think no matter what, something... Still thinking thoughts.
You're good.
No matter what, I walked away from that experience. And even after the crown camp too, like it was a little bittersweet. But afterwards I was like, I put in the work. I did what I thought I would do. I put everything on the table. There was no regrets there. I left it feeling satisfied no matter what. And
so
ultimately it ended up even better than I could have imagined. And that's super cool too. But even if I didn't end up finding a home to march with, and there's always a home to march with, there's always somewhere to go. There's always places. So people should never feel counted out after they get rejected once. I think that's something you only need one.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can get rejected a million times and you get one, you're good. You have a home.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the coolest thing about it. I think a lot of people find rejection hard to take sometimes, but really it's redirection. That's what everyone says.
Exactly.
That's a great. It's
an awesome point. Yeah.
Really great point and a good lesson for life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that I'm a big karmatic kind of guy, and I think when you stay positive, that positive things happen to you.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're not getting negative on yourself for like failure or something that you didn't achieve, and that like, oh, here's the end, that's a very negative outlook on things. Right. So you stayed positive when you went, hey, even though this is a bad thing, you know, I'm still very proud of myself, and I'm happy with the things I accomplished. And then the universe rewarded you with this little gift right here. And you were
also like,
you know, and the universe in the form of your brother, you know, who was like, boom, look at this thing. And then all of a sudden, like those kind of things, right? Staying positive. If you didn't have a good relationship with him, if you were really negative at him, like, I can't believe you made crown and I didn't. And, like he may not have been as so responsive to you and been like, hey, check this out. There's still an opportunity, right? That type of positive energy leads to what you're talking about. And so I love that message. That's good.
Even in a direct way, right? If we're not looking at a sort of universal karmic thing, like literally, if you show up to a Bluecoats camp and you were still like, I wish I was a crown marcher with my brother, right? They would have been able to feel that energy, but when you show up and you're just like, this is a new great opportunity and this is what I'm moving towards now, they can feel that and they can be like, this kid wants to be here, you know?
Yeah, good on you, man. Yeah. Proud of you. Like I said, Robbie, and the last thing I'll say to you guys were, you know, we're, like Robbie and I both, I remember I saw you post it and I think I took a screenshot and I sent him, I was like, what the hell is this? What's going on?
Incredible.
I was like, I can't believe this. Like, so we were both so really, really excited for you. And I know that, you know, selfishly, I was like, I'm going to reach out to you and have you come on the podcast because I want to talk to you. So, all right. So that's good. It's great last thing. How about you?
Parting words.
I don't know. I know you said it doesn't have to be advice, but like mine is kind of also advice, but also kind of like, you know, through doing this activity for as long as I have, like it's been 7 years. It's been a long
That's crazy
time.
That you're aging out and it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
That's an impressive tenure.
So long.
Yeah.
I think it's just like every moment is just do the best that you can do. If that doesn't mean perfection, it doesn't mean perfection. It's just like 100% is whatever the max is that you can give at that given moment. It might not even be 100% of what you can give. If you're like a bit sore that day, doesn't matter. Give 100% of what you can give. And then that's how you walk away without any regrets. Like you said it a couple of times. Like I think I learned it a bit the hard way after the summer of 23. Where like there were a couple of days in there where like you said, like I kind of fell in that trap of, you know, I don't want to be here right now, especially those days at the Erie Sports Center. We spent 40 days at the Erie Sports Center during spring training.
Man.
And those days got long, and there were moments where I said, you know, I don't want to be here right now. Like I wish I was somewhere else. But, you know, after everything that happened, I found myself being like, one more day at the Erie Sports Center. The things that I would give for just one more day there with all those people. So it's just like every single moment throughout both last season, especially this season, like I said, being an age out, is just what can I do at this moment to get the most out of it? What can I give personally to make both myself and everyone else around me to make that the best possible experience?
Yeah. I love that.
But yeah, positivity, I mean, obviously, I've always found that when you are positive and trying to help other people have good experiences, you in turn also have a great experience, right?
Yeah.
Because what else is better than having a good experience is awesome, but having a good experience with other people who are also having a good experience is 10 times better, right? Force multipliers. They're just going to make your life and everything, and it's called having friends. Ooh, crazy,
Yeah.
So.
Right. And on those tough days, one person having a good attitude can really turn it around for a lot of people.
It doesn't even need to be like you said, like happy-go-lucky. Sometimes it doesn't need to be all bright and cheery.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes
Positive
it's
doesn't just mean
sometimes
chipper.
it's just like, yeah, your emotion. Like I understand how you feel.
Yeah.
Gotta keep your head.
Hey, sometimes
acknowledging.
sometimes it's showing up and be like, hey guys, this sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks out here, but we're gonna get out there and
Job's
we're gonna
not
keep
done,
working.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're going to do it together. Like that's that's always a good lesson. So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
do you have anything?
I got one bonus question.
Oh, I love a bonus question.
Either of you guys think about coming back to Bucks once you finish once you finish your season, once you finish your careers out in DCI?
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Ideally, somewhere I end up on the other side where
Okay, so you want to teach. Okay.
That's fair. Yeah.
I've been doing that with a couple high schools in Jersey for the past couple years. I do really love it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I have a bit more marching in me, but like at some point, like
You took a break.
Yeah, take
I know what you're talking about.
And I'm definitely I don't want this season to be my last encounters with drum corps. Like
Okay.
I'm
Definitely.
there's definitely so much more in me. No matter which side I'm on, but if I do want to come back, I end up Bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like I said before, I think one summer at a time. I don't even know where I'll be next summer.
Definitely. Yeah.
But it's nice to know. I think for both of us, we know Bucks is a home for us.
If we
it's always
there
there.
to go, we will.
It would
have
be
a-
Bucks.
We will
Yeah,
always
Bucks.
be there, and both of us.
We'll probably be
We'll
there.
still be there. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to do something on the administrative side, you can be quartermaster all you want. That's cool. And obviously, like we try to. I've always tried to make wherever I am the most home filled place that you could be, right? So that people, they move on, do great things, and then they want to come back and do that. So I hope I see both of you guys back. That'd be cool. It'd be super
be
fun.
awesome. That'd
Hop
be
up,
great.
You can hop up on the podium this time if you want.
I would love. We could have 4 strong drum majors.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, at some point, we're people move on, right? There's always room for people to move into. So, or come back and march in the field. Who knows? Get one more good year of non-flappy arm people, and then you can go back to flapping your
exactly.
arms. Even George,
color guard some
George Parks was a tuba player at one point. Just remember that. So yeah, hey guys, thank you so much both of you guys for coming on.
Seriously,
it was super fun. I know there's people in both of those organizations that watch the show. So I know that you represented yourselves well. I'm sure they'll say the same thing. So they're excited to see you guys. And I'm excited to see you guys throughout the season. I'm sure we'll reach out. I'll probably text you a couple times and be like, and then see what your experience looks like and how you guys are doing.
We're going to have a little check-in or something.
See if you need anything from us. Some
throw some stuff care packages.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. We should do on-cycle care packages this
the
year.
whole nugget stickers.
Yeah. So
put them on all your jugs.
Steve sent me Marty last year.
yeah, that's
Marty,
yeah.
yeah.
True.
That's right. Yeah, the Martys are on tour with so many.
The Martys
people.
are on tour. I'm bringing them again.
Yeah, I think he's trying to. I think
put
Steve's
Flop
trying to reach
on the
out to
podium.
you and see if you'll take a Marty with you on the at Bluecoats. His goal is to get a Marty at every
top
top
12 score.
That would be cool. That would be
Yeah, it's freaking
Every
ridiculous.
final score has a Marty in it.
Yeah. So thanks again, guys, for coming on. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you all out there. If you're still out there watching, make sure you click like, subscribe, all those kind of good things too. And make sure you come on back because we have some other cool announcements that are coming out.
Exciting things in the future.
Exciting things in the future.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys will pop back in for those, and maybe not. We'll see. So,
Thank you for inviting us. Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, of course.
Appreciate it,
Thank you
guys.
guys so much. It was a nice. I love a good, insightful drum corps conversation. I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited to see you guys both this summer.
Oh, I'm so excited to see what you guys do.
Yeah.
And watch Flo marching and be like, there they are.
Yeah.
I mean, there he is.
Yeah.
Just standing there.
He's still there.
Look at him go.
there.
Look at him go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Alrighty then. Well, again, thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thank you
and
guys.
until next time, off cycle.